What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to share a story that came directly from a 911 dispatcher who worked the graveyard shift in a mid-sized county outside Detroit. What happened during this call was officially logged as an unfounded complaint. No arrest was made, no report was filed, no one was transported. But what really happened during those 11 minutes was never supposed to leave that dispatch center. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment letting me know where you're listening from. And if this story gets under your skin the way it got under mine, leave a like. Let's get into it. Most calls blur together once your shift ends. This one never did. I need you to understand something before I start. I've been working 911 dispatch for 6 years. I've heard people die on the phone. I've heard gunshots go off live. I've heard children crying while someone kicked in their front door. You learn to disconnect. You have to. Otherwise, you don't last 3 months in this job. But some calls don't let you disconnect. Some calls follow you home, follow you into the shower, follow you into bed. You close your eyes, and you still hear the voice on the other end of the line. This was one of those calls. It was a Tuesday, early March, my third graveyard shift in a row. I was operating solo at the center between midnight and 8 in the morning. Standard protocol. The fatigue was hitting hard around 3 in the morning. Typical calls up to that point. 2 false residential alarms, 1 verbal domestic dispute, a drunk driver reported on the highway, and a woman saying her neighbor's TV was too loud. Routine. I was even thinking about grabbing another coffee when the line rang. 3:47 a.m. I picked up on the second ring. 911, what's your emergency? And then I heard that voice. It wasn't panicked. It wasn't loud. It was a woman's voice, but it was calm in a way that immediately made my stomach drop. Calm the way someone sounds when they've already accepted something terrible. She was whispering, not because she was scared, but because she didn't want to be heard. There's a difference. You learn to hear it in this job. Fear makes people loud or shaky. This was control, cold control. She said very slowly, very clearly, "There's a demon here." I remember pausing, just for a second. We get psych calls all the time. Schizophrenic episodes, drug-induced paranoia, people off their meds. Standard procedure is to stay calm, ask for location, dispatch units, let the officers handle it. But something about the way she said it made me hesitate. It wasn't frantic, it wasn't confused. It was stated like a fact. I cleared my throat, pulled up the CAD screen, started typing. "Ma'am, I need you to stay calm. Can you give me your address?" She gave it to me. No hesitation. 4458 Maple Court. I recognized the street. Older residential area. Quiet neighborhood. Single-family homes. I entered it into the system and started prepping the dispatch. "Okay, I'm sending units to your location right now," I said. "Are you in danger? Is someone in the house with you?" She didn't answer right away. I could hear her breathing. Slow. Even. Then she said, "He's not someone. He's not an intruder. He lives here." That's when I felt the first real chill. I keyed up the radio. Dispatched 2 units, code 3. Possible 1056A, psychiatric subject, possible threat to self or others. I kept the caller on the line. That's protocol. You never hang up. You keep them talking. You keep them engaged. You wait for the units to arrive. "Ma'am, I need you to tell me what's happening," I said. My voice was steady, professional, but my hand was already hovering over the backup dispatch button. She didn't respond immediately. I could hear something in the background. Not voices, not footsteps, just a low hum, like static, like the sound old TVs make when there's no signal. "He's standing in the hallway," she said. Her voice was still calm, still controlled. "He's been standing there for 20 minutes. He hasn't moved. He's just staring at the wall." I typed notes into the CAD log as she spoke. Suspect described as male. Stationary. Hallway. Possible mental health crisis. Standard stuff. But my chest felt tight. "Can you describe him for me?" I asked. "What's he wearing? How tall is he?" She answered immediately. No hesitation. "He's about 6 feet. Wearing a gray shirt and jeans. His back is to me. His hands are at his sides. He's barefoot." I wrote it all down. Detailed description. That would help the officers when they arrived. "Is this someone you know?" I asked. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Yes." I waited. She didn't elaborate. I prompted her. "Is it your husband? A family member? Someone who lives with you?" She said very softly, "He used to." I felt my stomach turn. Okay, I said. Can you tell me where you are right now? Are you safe? Are you hidden? She said, I'm in the bedroom. The door is locked, but he knows I'm here. I checked the dispatch screen. Units were 3 minutes out. I just needed to keep her talking, keep her calm, keep her on the line. That's good, I said. You did the right thing by locking the door. Stay where you are. Help is almost there. Can you still see him? She paused. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. I can't see him anymore. The lights are off, but I know exactly where he is. I frowned. How do you know where he is if the lights are off? She didn't answer right away. I could hear her breathing. Slow, steady. Then she said, because I can feel him. I can feel where he's standing. I can feel him looking at the wall. I can feel his fingers twitching. This wasn't adding up. Ma'am, are there any lights on in the house? I asked. She said, no. I turned them all off. I leaned forward. Why did you turn them off? She was quiet for a long time. Then she whispered, because I didn't want to see his face. That's when I realized this wasn't a standard psych call. I updated the CAD notes. Lights off. Caller exhibits signs of extreme distress, possible delusion or hallucination. But my hands were shaking. I checked the timer. Units were 90 seconds out. I just had to keep her talking. I just had to keep her stable until they got there. Ma'am, I need you to stay with me, I said. Officers are almost there. Can you tell me your name? She told me. I'm not going to repeat it here. I wrote it down. I ran it through the system while she stayed on the line. No priors, no history. Clean record. Normal person, normal address. But then she started talking again. And what she said didn't make sense. He's moving now, she whispered. I sat up. Where is he moving? She said, he's walking toward the stairs, slow, one step at a time. His left hand is touching the wall as he walks. His right hand is hanging at his side. I typed faster. Can you see him? I asked. She said, no. I said, then how do you know what he's doing? She paused. Then she said, very quietly, because I'm remembering. I stopped typing. I stared at the screen. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what that meant. What do you mean you're remembering? I asked. She didn't answer. I could hear her breathing. I could hear the faint hum in the background. Then she said, this already happened. He already walked to the stairs. He already stood in the hallway. He already did this 3 years ago, the night he died. My throat went dry. I didn't know what to say. I should have flagged the call. I should have marked it as a clear psych case. But I didn't. I just sat there, listening. She kept talking. He's at the bottom of the stairs now. He's looking up. He's not blinking. His mouth is open. Just a little. I can see his teeth. Ma'am, the lights are off, I said. You said you can't see him. She said, I'm not seeing him now. I'm seeing him then. I'm remembering exactly how he looked, exactly where he stood, exactly how his skin looked. It was gray. It was cold. It didn't move right when he walked. I felt sick. I checked the GPS tracker. Units were 30 seconds out. I needed to stall. I needed to keep her talking. Ma'am, who is this person? I asked. She said very softly, my husband. He died 3 years ago, in this house, in that hallway, and he's been standing there every night since. I didn't respond. I couldn't. This was beyond my training. This was beyond protocol. I should have disconnected. I should have flagged it as a prank. But her voice was too calm, too precise, too certain. She wasn't lying. She believed every word she was saying, and that terrified me. Then she said something that I still can't explain. He's saying something now. I can't hear it, but I can see his mouth moving. He's saying the same thing he said the night he died. He's saying, I know you're listening. I froze. My hand hovered over the keyboard. That phrase, that exact phrase. I'd heard it before, but I didn't know where. The call dropped. Not a clean disconnect, not a hang-up. It just cut out. The line went silent, but the timer kept running. The system still showed the call as active. I could see the duration ticking up. 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. But there was no audio, no static, nothing. I stared at the screen. This wasn't normal. When a call drops, it disconnects completely. The line goes dead. The system closes the log, but this one stayed open. The call was still connected. I could see the active indicator blinking. Green light, active line, but no sound. I leaned into the headset, listened closely, and then I heard it. Breathing. Faint. Steady. Not hers. I felt my skin crawl. Slower. I clicked the mic. "Ma'am, are you still there?" Nothing. Just breathing. I tried again. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" Still nothing. But the breathing continued. In, out, in, out. Then I heard footsteps. Not on her end. On the line. I could hear them clearly, slow, deliberate, like someone walking across a hardwood floor. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Then they stopped. I held my breath. I didn't move. I just listened. And then I heard a voice. Male. Deep. Distant. But clear enough to make out. It wasn't speaking to her. It was speaking to me. The voice said, very slowly, "You're still listening." I yanked the headset off. My heart was pounding. I stared at the screen. The call was still active. Still connected. I didn't put the headset back on. I just watched the timer. 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 9 minutes. I keyed up the radio. My hands were shaking. "Unit 340, what's your 1020? Static, then a response. 1097 on scene. They were there. I waited for the next update. Protocol says they radio in as soon as they make contact. 30 seconds. Nothing. 60 seconds. Nothing. I keyed up again. "Unit 340, do you have contact with the caller?" Silence. I checked the GPS. Both units were at the address. Stationary. I could see their location markers on the map. They were there, but they weren't responding. I felt my chest tighten. I tried again. 340, please confirm status." More silence. Then the radio crackled. The officer's voice came through, but it sounded wrong, flat, emotionless. "Code 4, he said. "Unfounded call, clear." I sat up. 340, can you confirm? Did you make contact with the caller?" He repeated, word for word, same tone, same cadence. "Code 4, unfounded call, clear." I stared at the radio. That wasn't protocol. That wasn't how officers talk. That wasn't human. I tried one more time. 340, I need confirmation on the female caller. Is she on scene? The radio was silent for a long time. Then the officer's voice came back. Same flat tone, same dead delivery. He said, "There is no woman here. There never was." And then the line went completely dead. I sat there staring at the screen. The call log was still active, still running, but the line was dead now. Completely dead. No breathing, no static, nothing. I clicked through the dispatch records. Both units had cleared code 4, scene secure. No further assistance needed. But something was wrong. Something was very wrong. I could feel it in my chest. That tight feeling you get when you know something bad happened, but you don't know what yet. I pulled up the unit tracker. Both cars were still parked at the address. They hadn't moved. I zoomed in on the map. The markers were stationary, right in front of 4458 Maple Court. They'd been there for 4 minutes, but they'd only radioed in once. That wasn't normal. Officers radio in multiple times. Entry, contact, clear. It's procedure. It's drilled into them from day one. But these guys? One transmission, code 4, and then nothing. I tried calling the primary unit directly, mobile to mobile. It rang, and rang, and rang. No answer. I tried the secondary unit. Same thing. No answer. I felt my hands start to shake. I flagged the supervisor, sent a priority message. No response. I was alone in the center. It was just me, and that silent call log still running on my screen. Just me and the feeling that I'd sent those officers into something they shouldn't have walked into. I pulled up the CAD history for that address. I don't know why. I just had a feeling. I scrolled back. 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and then I saw it. 3 prior calls, all from the same address, all at 3:47 a.m., all classified as unfounded, all cleared code 4 with no contact made. Same time, same result, same address. Every single year. March 14th, like clockwork. I opened the first one. March 14th, 2 years ago. Female caller. Reports intruder in residence. Units dispatched. Arrived on scene. Cleared code 4. No report filed. I opened the second one. March 14th, 1 year ago. Same thing. Female caller. Same address. Same time. Same result. Unfounded. No follow-up. No report. Just a case number and a closed log. Like it never happened. The third call. March 14th. This year. Tonight. The call I just took. I felt my stomach drop. I checked today's date. March 14th. I looked at the clock. 4:02 a.m. It had been 15 minutes since the call came in. 15 minutes since I heard that voice. 15 minutes since the line went dead. But the call was still active on my screen. Still open. Still counting time like it was waiting for something. I clicked into the audio archive. Every call gets recorded. Automatically. I pulled up tonight's call. I hit play. I heard my voice. 911, what's your emergency? Then silence. No response. No woman's voice. Just dead air. I fast-forwarded. Still nothing. Just silence. But I knew I heard her. I knew I heard her voice. I knew I heard that breathing. I know what I heard. I checked the duration stamp on the recording. It said 11 minutes and 43 seconds. I looked at the live call log. It said 6 minutes and 18 seconds. The timestamps didn't match. The recording was almost twice as long as the actual call. That's not possible. The system doesn't malfunction like that. It doesn't create extra time. It doesn't fabricate audio. It logs what happens. Exactly what happens. Nothing more. Nothing less. I rewound the recording. I listened again. And this time, at the very end, I heard something. Faint. Buried under the static. A voice. Male. Deep. Saying something over and over. I turned up the volume. I isolated the track. I leaned in close. And then, I heard it clearly. He was saying my name. My full name. Over and over. Like a chant. Like a prayer. Like he knew exactly who was listening. I pulled the headset off. I stood up. I walked away from the console. I needed air. I needed space. I needed to think. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. I've handled thousands of calls. I've heard every kind of crazy, every kind of lie, every kind of delusion. People call 911 and say all kinds of things. Aliens, government conspiracies, voices in their head. You learn to filter it out. You learn to stay professional. You learn to let it go. But this was different. This was something else. This wasn't a psych call. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't someone off their meds or high on something. This was organized. This was deliberate. This was targeted. And somehow it involved me. My name. My voice. My presence on that call. I didn't understand it. I didn't want to understand it. But I couldn't ignore it. The recording was there. The voice was there. My name was there. Clear as day. No static. No distortion. Just my name. Over and over. I came back to the desk. I sat down. I pulled up the CAD log again. I read through every detail. Every note I'd typed, every timestamp, every dispatch code. It was all there. It was all documented. The call happened. The units responded. The scene was cleared. Everything was logged. Everything was procedural. Except for one thing. The time. The missing time. The gap that shouldn't exist. 6 minutes and 25 seconds. Unaccounted for. No record. No explanation. The official CAD log said the call lasted 6 minutes and 18 seconds, but the audio recording said 11 minutes and 43 seconds. I checked the system clock. I checked the phone log. I cross-referenced the radio timestamps. There was a gap, a missing window. Between the moment the line dropped and the moment the officers radioed code 4, 6 minutes passed. But there was no record of what happened during that time. No radio traffic, no updates, no GPS movement, just blank space. I ran a reverse lookup on the address, public records, property history, ownership. The house was listed as occupied, single owner, female, age 47, name matched the caller. I pulled her driver's license photo from the DMV database. I stared at it. She looked normal, tired, older, but normal. Brown hair pulled back, glasses, slight smile. Nothing about her suggested instability. Nothing about her suggested someone who would make a call like that. But she did, or someone did. I dug deeper. I pulled court records, marriage license, divorce filings, death certificates, and then I found it. Her husband, deceased, March 14th, 3 years ago. Cause of death, accidental fall. Location, residence, 4458 Maple Court. He died in that house, in that hallway, exactly where she said he was standing. The coroner's report said he fell down the stairs. Blunt force trauma to the head. No foul play suspected. Case closed. But the date was the same. March 14th. I sat back. I stared at the screen. I tried to process it. She wasn't lying. She wasn't delusional. She was describing something that actually happened, something that actually existed, or used to exist. But that didn't explain the call. That didn't explain the voice. That didn't explain my name being said on a recording I shouldn't have. That didn't explain the missing 6 minutes. That didn't explain why the officers went silent. That didn't explain any of this. Nothing explained this. I checked the officer logs. I pulled the names of the 2 responding units. Officer Daniels, Officer Kovac. Both veterans. Both solid. I sent them both a priority message. I needed to talk to them. I needed to know what they saw. I needed to know what happened in those 6 missing minutes. I waited. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. No response. I checked their status. Both units showed as available. Both back in service. Both ignoring my messages or unable to respond. I tried calling again. Direct line. No answer. I flagged their supervisor. Sent an urgent request for debrief. No response. I checked the time. 4:47 a.m. 1 hour since the call. 1 hour since I heard her voice. 1 hour since everything stopped making sense. I looked at the call log one more time. It was still open, still active, still running. The timer showed 17 minutes and counting. But the call ended 16 minutes ago. The system was malfunctioning, or something else was happening. The official report came through at 6:15 a.m. I was still at the console, still awake, still staring at that open call log. The report was filed by the primary responding officer, Officer Daniels. I opened it. I read through it. Standard format, standard language, incident type, mental health crisis, disposition, subject transported to facility, no arrest, no charges, case closed. But that wasn't what happened. I knew that wasn't what happened. I was on the line. I heard everything. I scrolled down. I looked for the transport details. There were none. No ambulance was dispatched. No psychiatric facility was listed. No receiving hospital. No transport unit. No medic signature. The report said she was transported, but there was no record of transport. I pulled up the ambulance logs. I cross-checked the time window. No dispatches to that address. No medical units in that area. No transport orders. Nothing. She wasn't transported. She wasn't taken anywhere. The report was fabricated, or incomplete, or deliberately falsified. I didn't know which, but I knew it wasn't true. I sent a priority message to the records supervisor. I flagged the discrepancy. I requested clarification. I waited. No response. I sent another message. Still nothing. I checked the officer roster. Officer Daniels was listed as off-duty. Shift ended at 5 a.m. I checked Officer Kovac. Same thing. Both off-duty, both unreachable, both gone before I could talk to them. I pulled up the property records again. I ran a search for recent activity, utility usage, mail delivery, anything that would indicate someone was living there. The records showed active utilities, water, electric, gas, all current, all paid. Someone was living there. But according to the report, the house was empty. No one was found. No one was transported. The officers entered the residence. They cleared every room. They found nothing. No woman. No man. No body. No evidence. But I heard her. I heard her voice. I heard her describe that hallway. I heard her describe her dead husband standing in the exact spot where he died 3 years ago. I heard her say his name. I heard her say he was looking at the wall. I heard her say she could feel him. I heard all of it. And then I heard him. I heard his voice. I heard him say my name. I heard him say it over and over. That wasn't fabricated. That wasn't my imagination. That was real. I made a decision. I saved the call log. I saved the audio recording. I saved the CAD notes. I exported everything to a personal drive. This was against protocol. This was a terminable offense. But I didn't care. I needed proof. I needed evidence. I needed something to show that this happened, that this was real, that I wasn't losing my mind. I burned it to a disk. I labeled it with the case number. I put it in my locker. No one would find it there. I started going through the older calls, the ones from previous years. Same address, same time, same date. March 14th at 3:47 a.m. I pulled the audio from the first call, 2 years ago. I listened. Different dispatcher, male voice, professional, calm. The woman's voice was the same. Exact same tone. Exact same words. "There's a demon here." The dispatcher followed protocol. Units dispatched. Arrived on scene. Cleared code 4. No contact made. Call ended. But the recording had the same issue. Extended duration. Missing time. I pulled the second call. 1 year ago. Different dispatcher again. Female this time. Same caller. Same words. Same result. Units dispatched. Code 4. No contact. No report. And again, the recording showed a time discrepancy. 11 minutes on the recording. 6 minutes on the log. The same gap. The same missing window. The same unexplained silence. Someone else heard this. Someone else logged this. Someone else sent units to that address. And no one ever followed up. No one ever questioned it. No one ever filed a report. I tried to find the dispatchers who handled those previous calls. I pulled their employment records. The first one quit 2 weeks after the call. No explanation, no notice. Just walked out mid-shift and never came back. The second one requested a transfer. Got moved to a different county. Refused to give a reason. Just said she needed a change. Both of them gone. Both of them silent. Both of them running from something they didn't want to talk about. And now I understood why. I checked my own employment file. I pulled my schedule. I looked at my shift assignments for the past 3 years. March 14th, 2 years ago, I was off. March 14th, 1 year ago, I was off. March 14th this year, I was working. It was my first time working that date. My first time working that shift on that specific night. And somehow, I got the call. Somehow it came to me. Like it was waiting. Like it knew. Like it had been patient. And now it was my turn. I printed the call log. I printed the CAD notes. I printed the officer reports. I printed everything. I put it all in a folder. I labeled it. I dated it. I stored it in my personal files at home. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't show anyone. I just kept it. Because I knew that eventually, someone would ask. Someone would want to know. Someone would need proof. And when that time came, I would have it. I would have everything. Every detail. Every timestamp. Every word. But deep down, I knew no one would ask. I knew no one would care. I knew this would get buried just like the other calls. Just like the other reports. Just like the other dispatchers who heard that voice and tried to do something about it. The system protects itself. The system covers its gaps. The system doesn't allow for things it can't explain. And this call couldn't be explained. So it would be forgotten, filed away, erased from memory, like it never happened. I clocked out at 8:07 a.m. I went home. I didn't sleep. I sat on my couch and stared at the wall. I kept replaying the call in my head. I kept hearing her voice. I kept hearing his voice. I kept hearing my name, over and over, like a loop, like a recording, like something that was always playing and I'd just tuned in. I tried to sleep. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that hallway. I saw him standing there. I saw his back turned. I thought about calling in sick. I thought about quitting. I thought about walking away from this job and never looking back. But I didn't. I couldn't. Because if I left, who would answer the next call? Who would hear her voice next year? Who would send units to that address when it happened again? Because I knew it would happen again. It always happened again. March 14th at 3:47 a.m. every year. Like clockwork. Like a ritual. Like something that couldn't be stopped. 3 days later, I drove to the address. I don't know why. I just needed to see it. I needed to confirm it was real. I parked across the street. I sat in my car. I looked at the house. It was small. Single story. Faded blue paint. Overgrown lawn. Curtains drawn. No lights. No movement. No sign of life. The mailbox was full. The driveway was empty. The windows were dark. It looked abandoned. It looked forgotten. It looked like no one had been there in years. I walked up to the front door. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Nothing. I looked through the window. I could see the hallway. I could see the stairs. I could see exactly where she described him standing. And for just a second, I swear I saw something. A shadow. A shape. Standing in the exact spot she said. Facing the wall. Hands at its sides. Not moving. Not breathing. Just standing. But when I blinked, it was gone. The hallway was empty. The house was silent. I tried the door. It was locked. I walked around the back, checked the windows, all locked, all dark. I peered through the glass. I could see into the kitchen, dishes in the sink, a cup on the counter, a jacket hanging on a chair, signs of life, signs of someone living there, but no movement, no sound, no presence. I stood there for a long time, just watching, just waiting, hoping to see something, hoping to understand, but nothing happened. The house remained still. I got back in my car. I sat there for another hour, just watching the house, watching for lights, watching for movement, watching for her. But nothing changed. The house stayed dark, the curtains stayed closed, the street stayed empty. Eventually, I started the engine. I pulled away. I drove home. But I kept looking in the rearview mirror, kept checking to see if anyone was following, kept checking to see if that shadow was in the back seat. It wasn't, but I felt it. I felt something watching. I felt something aware. That night, I couldn't stay home. I drove around. I went to a diner. I ordered coffee. I sat in a booth and stared at my phone. I pulled up the case number. I stared at it. 24-0314-0347. 7 digits. 7 numbers that represented something I couldn't explain, something I couldn't forget, something that had attached itself to me. I thought about deleting the file. I thought about forgetting the whole thing. But I knew I couldn't. It was already too late. I was already part of it. I went back to work the next night. I sat at the console. I answered calls. I dispatched units. I followed protocol. Everything was normal. Everything was routine. But I kept checking the clock, kept watching the time, kept waiting for 3:47 a.m. It came and went. Nothing happened. No call. No voice. No emergency. Just silence. Just the hum of the computers. Just the static of the radio. But I felt relieved and terrified because I knew the call would come again. Just not tonight. I started researching. I looked up the history of the house. I found old news articles. I found the obituary for her husband. I found the police report from his death. Accidental fall. Blunt force trauma. No foul play. But I read between the lines. I read the witness statements. I read the coroner's notes. There were inconsistencies. Small ones. Things that didn't quite add up. A neighbor heard arguing that night. Another saw lights flickering. Another heard a scream. But none of it made it into the final report. It was all dismissed. All explained away. All forgotten. I never went back to that house. I never followed up on the call. I never spoke to the officers. I never filed a formal complaint. I just let it go. I had to, because the alternative was admitting that something happened that night that I can't explain. And I'm not ready to do that. I'm not ready to admit that there are things in this job that go beyond protocol, beyond training, beyond logic, beyond what we're supposed to deal with. Some calls don't make sense, and this was one of them. The call is still in the system. I checked. It's archived under case number 24-0314-0347. It's classified as unfounded. No action taken, no report filed, no follow-up required. Officially, nothing happened. Officially, the call was routine. Officially, I'm the only person who remembers it the way I remember it. And maybe that's true. Maybe I'm the only one who heard what I heard. Maybe I'm the only one who knows what really happened that night. Or maybe everyone else just chose to forget. I still have the recording. I've listened to it 4 times. I shouldn't have kept it. I shouldn't have saved it. But I did. And every time I listen, I hear something new. A word, a sound, a breath. Something I missed before. Something that wasn't there before. Or something that was always there and I just didn't notice. The last time I listened, I heard her voice again. At the very end of the recording. After the line went dead. After the static. After everything stopped. She whispered. She said, "He's still here. He'll always be here. And now he knows about you." I haven't listened since. I deleted the file. Or I tried to. It's still on my drive. I can't delete it. The system won't let me. Every time I try, the file reappears. Like it's locked. Like it's protected. Like something doesn't want it erased. I stop trying. I just leave it there. I don't open it. I don't think about it. I pretend it doesn't exist. But I know it does. I tried to talk to the officers. I finally tracked one of them down. Officer Daniels. I caught him in the parking lot after his shift. I asked him what he saw that night. He looked at me like I was crazy. He said he didn't remember the call. He said he runs dozens of calls a week. He said they all blur together. I showed him the case number. He stared at it for a long time. Then he looked at me. His face changed. His expression went flat. He said, "Drop it," and he walked away. I tried Officer Kovac next. I called him, left messages, sent emails. He never responded. I finally showed up at his house. His wife answered. She said he wasn't home. I asked when he'd be back. She said she didn't know. I asked if I could leave a message. She said no. Then she looked at me, really looked at me, and she said, "He doesn't talk about that call. He won't talk about it. Don't ask him again." Then she closed the door. I stood there for a minute. Then I left. I started having dreams. Not nightmares, just dreams. I'd be at the console. The phone would ring. I'd answer, and it would be her. Same voice, same words. "There's a demon here." But in the dream, I could see her. I could see the house. I could see the hallway. I could see him standing there, his back turned, his hands at his sides, and then he'd turn around, slowly, and I'd see his face. Except it wasn't a face. It was just blank, just smooth skin, no eyes, no mouth, no features, just nothing. And then I'd wake up, worse, more frequent, more vivid. I started seeing him when I was awake, just for a second, in reflections, in windows, in mirrors, always the same, standing, watching, waiting. I'd blink and he'd be gone, but I knew what I saw. I knew what I was seeing. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't losing my mind. Something was watching me. Something knew I was involved. Something knew I heard that call, and it wasn't done with me yet. I considered quitting. I wrote the resignation letter. I had it ready. I was going to submit it, but then I thought about what would happen. I'd leave. Someone else would take my shifts. Someone else would be sitting at that console next March 14th. Someone else would answer that call, and they wouldn't know. They wouldn't be prepared. They wouldn't understand what they were hearing, and maybe that would be worse. Maybe it was better that I knew. Maybe it was better that I stayed. Maybe I was supposed to be there. I started documenting everything. Every strange call, every weird coincidence, every unexplained event. I kept a journal. I wrote down dates, times, details. I cataloged everything. I created a system. I built a database. I wanted proof. I wanted evidence. I wanted something tangible, something I could point to and say, "Look, this is real. This is happening." But the more I documented, the more I realized how little I actually understood, how little any of us understood. I found others, other dispatchers, other officers, people who'd worked that area, people who'd been there for years. I asked careful questions. I didn't mention the call directly. I just asked about strange experiences, about calls that didn't make sense, about houses with bad histories. And slowly, people started talking, quietly, privately, off the record. They told me stories. Stories about that address. Stories about other addresses. Stories about calls that never got resolved. Calls that never made sense. Calls that stayed with them. One dispatcher told me about a call she took 5 years ago. Different address. Same situation. Woman on the line. Calm voice. Describing someone in her house who shouldn't be there. Units dispatched. Arrived on scene. Found nothing. But the dispatcher heard something on the recording later. A voice. Faint. In the background. Saying her name. She quit a month later. Moved to a different state. Never worked dispatch again. She told me she still hears it sometimes. Late at night. When everything's quiet. She hears her name. And she knows it's not over. I started understanding something. This wasn't isolated. This wasn't unique. This was part of something bigger. Something that had been happening for a long time. Something that involved multiple locations. Multiple calls. Multiple people. But no one talked about it. No one acknowledged it. No one wanted to admit it was real. Because admitting it was real meant admitting that there were things we couldn't control. Things we couldn't fix. Things we couldn't dispatch units to handle. I went back to the archives. I pulled every unfounded call from the past 10 years. I mapped them. I created a timeline. I looked for patterns. And I found them. Certain dates. Certain times. Certain addresses. They repeated. Over and over. Like a cycle. Like a schedule. Like something that followed rules we didn't understand. March 14th wasn't the only date. There were others. October 31st, December 21st, June 24th. All significant, all recurring, all connected. I printed the maps. I hung them on my wall at home. I connected the dots, literally. I drew lines between addresses, between dates, between incidents, and a pattern emerged. A shape, a design. It wasn't random. It was organized. It was intentional. It was planned. And it was still happening, still continuing, still expanding. And I was part of it now. I was on the map. My name was in the system. My voice was on the recordings. I was connected. I tried to show someone. I brought the maps to work. I showed them to my supervisor. He looked at them. He listened to me explain. And then he told me to go home. He told me to take a few days off. He told me I was stressed, overworked, burned out. He said I needed rest. He said I was seeing patterns that weren't there. He said I was making connections that didn't exist. He didn't believe me. No one believed me. And I realized I was alone in this. I still work dispatch. I still take calls. I still answer the phone when it rings. But I'm different now. I'm aware. I'm watching. I'm waiting. Because I know the call will come again. Next year, March 14th, 3:47 a.m., it'll ring, and I'll answer, and I'll hear that voice, and I'll hear my name, and I'll know that whatever this is, it's not finished, it's not done, it's not over. It's just waiting, patient, knowing, and when the time comes, I'll be ready, or at least, I'll try to be. I've accepted that some calls you don't solve, some calls you don't understand, some calls you just survive. You take them, you log them, you dispatch units, you follow protocol, and then you let them go. You file them away. You close the case. You move on. But they don't move on from you. They stay. They linger. They follow. They watch. They wait. And eventually, they come back. Because some calls aren't about helping. They're about witnessing. They're about knowing. They're about becoming part of something you can't explain. The recording is still on my drive. I haven't deleted it. I haven't listened to it. But I know it's there, waiting. Just like everything else. Just like the house. Just like the shadow. Just like him. All of it waiting. All of it patient. All of it knowing that eventually, I'll come back to it. I'll open the file. I'll listen again. I'll hear my name. And when I do, something will change. Something will shift. Something will move forward. And I don't know what happens after that. I don't know what comes next. But I know it's coming. Some calls blur together once your shift ends. This one never did. This one never will. This one stays. This one waits. This one watches. And every night when I sit at that console, I wonder if tonight's the night it calls again. If tonight's the night I hear that voice. If tonight's the night I finally understand what it wants, what it needs, what it's been trying to tell me all along. But until then, I just wait. I just listen. I just answer the phone. And I hope that when it rings, I'm ready for whatever's on the other end of the line.